which is why vaping and smoking can really mess you up. Not just from the nicotine, but because it primes your brain to like other stuffs even more later on.
You're listening to Teen Talks, Breaking Free from Tobacco and Nicotine Grip, a podcast brought to you by the Asia Pacific Learning Collaborative Network on tobacco and nicotine control. In this episode, Brain Buzz, the inside scoop on nicotine and teen minds.
A wonderful day, everyone. It's your Nika-free teen girl, Tanusia, and welcome to another fun, exciting, and informative episode of Teen Talks, Breaking Free from Tobacco and Nicotine Grip. From the previous episode, our Nica-free friends with our doctor buddies have talked about how tobacco smoking affects our developing bodies. Today, we'll be talking all about how nicotine affects our teenage brain. Hence, our podcast episode entitled Brain Buzz, the inside scoop on nicotine and teen minds. We're surely gonna dive into the scoop, how nicotine buzzes our brain, look specifically at how it messes with teenage minds, both short and long term, plus how it can change our behavior. As a teen myself, this topic is super relevant. I'm sure all my fellow teens and even your parents and doctor friends out there can agree that nicotine is something we all think about. Joining us to school us on all things nicotine and brain is Dr. T. He's been a pediatrician for over 25 years, like 18 of those years focused on teen health. Not only that, he used to be the president of Malaysian Pediatric Association and vice president of Malaysian Association of Adolescent Health. In other words, our doctor knows his stuff. Welcome, Dr. T.
Hi, thank you for that kind introduction, Danu. I'm excited to share this episode with you and your fellow Nico free teens as well.
I'm excited as well, Dr. T. So let's get into our first discussion, shall we? Dr. T, we all mentioning about nicotine, but we want to understand first, what is nicotine?
Okay, it's a great start with the basic info, Tanusha. I wanted to fill you in. So, nicotine is the primary psychoactive agent, or in simple words, the highly addictive substance found in cigarettes, cigars, and other tobacco products. You know how everyone at school is always vaping? Well, nicotine, what makes vape so addictive? Nicotine comes from the tobacco plant and it is used as a defense against bugs. It's so toxic that it can kill insects. Our ancestors like Mayans and Aztecs used tobacco for religious ceremonies and medicine too. Originally, no one was smoking or vaping just for fun. However, nowadays though, most people who use nicotine do it because they think it's enjoyable, like puffing on a cigarette or hitting a vape is a good way to pass the time. The World Health Organization says that there are around 1.27 billion tobacco users worldwide. No joke, right? That's a crazy big number of people potentially hurting themselves. I know if it was me, I would feel pretty bummed knowing over a billion others might be risking their health just to get a buzz. That is scary, isn't it?
Oh, that's a frightening number indeed. Alright, guys, listen up. I gotta tell you all about my friend Jason, who started smoking way too young. Dude was only 12 years old when he started sneaking off to the bathroom during class to light up. I tried telling him it was a bad idea, but he just wouldn't listen. Say he couldn't quit even though it was super obvious he was hooked. Nicotine is a sneaky little sucker. It gets into your body fast whether you're actually smoking a cigarette or just breathing in the second-hand stuff. Dr. T, can you explain exactly how nicotine gets into your body just from breathing it? Once it's in there, what's it doing to you?
All right, Tanusia, listen up. You know how when you hit that vape or light up a cigarette, it feels good at first? Well, here's why. As soon as the nicotine gets in your lungs or mucous membranes in the mouth or nose, it zooms straight to your bloodstream. From there, it weaves through your body like it owns the place. And get this, it breezes past your brain's security system with no problem. Once in the brain, all hell breaks loose. We are talking just seconds for that head rush to kick in. The nicotine latches onto receptors that trigger the release of dopamine. You know, the happy chemicals. So basically, it tricks your brain, the blood-brain barrier, and takes its effect in central nervous system. It takes less than 10 seconds for nicotine to reach the brain and create a rush of good feeling or euphoria associated with pleasure and reward. But it doesn't stop there. Nicotine also jacks up your heart rate and blood pressure. At the same time, it dumps a huge amount of adrenaline into your system to amplify things up even more. All of this combines to make you feel wired and alert. So, in summary, Tanisha, nicotine gets you feeling good fast by hijacking your brain's pleasure centers. Just something to keep in mind next time you are itching to for a smoke or puff.
Thanks for the explanation, Dr. T. That is why my buddy who I mentioned earlier, Jason, couldn't stop smoking. That buzz got him hooked. How did nicotine stuff get them addicted and develop dependence on nicotine?
You know how when you start vaping or smoking all the time, it gets harder and harder to stop. So the more you expose your brain to nicotine, the more it gets used to it and needs more and more to feel satisfied. It's like your brain is building up a tolerance. On top of that, your brain can actually get dependent on nicotine. So when the level starts to drop, your brain throws a fit and you get cravings and feel very edgy. That's why when people try to quit after doing it a lot, they feel irritable, stressed out, super distracted, and all over the place with their mood. The brain is so used to running on nicotine that it rebels without it. Moral of the story, don't let your brain manipulate you into being its nicotine slave. Stay in control of your habits.
I've been seeing a lot of kids hitting those e-cigarettes instead of regular smokes lately. Do they mess you up in the same way?
Okay, vapes and cigarettes may be different in form, but both contains nicotine with the same effects. However, they work differently. Let me break it down for you. Most of the time, you are inhaling that stuff into your lungs. So when you hit the vape, it heats up the liquid inside and turns it into a vapor, which you then breathe in. The nicotine from the vapor gets soaked up by your lungs and dumped into your bloodstream. From there, it gets shipped off to your brain and other parts of your body. There's another way nicotine get into through your mucous membranes. Basically, the stuff that lines inside your mouth, your throat, and some other areas. Those membranes can also absorb nicotine from vapes. So in the end, whether it's a vape or a cigarette, the nicotine ends up in the same place. That is, circulating through your blood and affecting your body and the brain works. Pretty crazy how that all happens, right, Tanisha?
Nicotine surely has its way to get through the brain and body, regardless if it's vape or tobacco. Hey Dr. T, I've been thinking why it is such a big deal if we start using nicotine when we are young. Like, does it really mess up our future that much? It feels like there's a big warning sign flashing at us.
I need to lay some signs on you about smoking and vaping. Your teen brain is going through some major changes right now. That prefrontal cortex, the part that helps you think things through and control impulses, i.e., processes of maturation and development, specifically in areas related to decision making, impulse control, mood regulation, attention, learning, and memory are yet to be developed. At the same time, the reward centers of your brain are kicking into high gear. That's why risky or exciting stuff can seem so appealing. But getting hooked on nicotine now could really mess with how your brain finishes growing. We all know how nicotine is addictive, but your developing brain, it's like a kryptonite for the stuff. Just one hit could have you craving more, and it may be way harder for you to quit down the road. Those are the reasons why teen brain is more susceptible to addiction than that of the adult brain. Plus, all the hormone craziness of puberty means peer pressure has extra power right now. Your buddies start juicing in the bathroom, and next thing you know, you are hooked too. I'm just saying, give your brain a chance to finish cooking before you start filling it with that nicotine poison. Your future self will thank you.
That's a clear scientific explanation, Dr. T. I got notice some of my buddies have been smoking a lot and also drinking more than usual. Do you think that means those who smoke will start messing with other things too? Why does it sometimes lead to that?
That's a great question. Let me drop some knowledge about the gateway hypothesis. So, we all know addiction is no joke, right? But it's extra important for you to pay attention because your brains are still developing. That means it don't take much for you to get hooked, which is why vaping and smoking can really mess you up. Not just from the nicotine, but because it primes your brain to like other stuffs even more later on. Nicotine hits your reward centers, but it also interacts with other chemicals in a way that makes other drugs like Coke seem way more fun and addictive than they already are. So, in short, watch out for vapes, cigarettes, and all that. They might seem cool now, but they will really screw with your head and make it way easier to get addicted to harder stuffs down the line. So, stay safe, you guys.
Just listening to Gateway Hypothesis would have gotten many teens to of quitting nicotine addiction. What can we do to help teens? How do we prevent them from initiating the smoking habit? And for those already smoking, how to stop?
Okay, I know all the cool kids are doing it, but you don't want to end up addicted to that nasty stuff. It's super important that both you and your parents know the truth about nicotine. The stuff is no joke. It can mess you up for life if you're not careful. Luckily, there are tons of programs out there to help keep kids from starting. Things like laws that make it harder for teens to buy cigarettes, higher taxes so they cost more, and school policies about not allowing it on campus. They've even raised the legal age to 21 now. On top of that, they have advertisements everywhere trying to convince you not to do it. And they are making more public places like malls and restaurants smoke free too. Your parents should also educate you on exactly what smoking can do, like how it will make your teeth stain, causes bad breath, and totally ruin your athletic performance. Don't even get me started on those vapes and chew stuff. They are not safe alternatives like some people think. And smoking and vaping are definitely not as cool as the movies and music try to portray it. Just remember, you've got your whole life ahead of you to enjoy. Don't let some dumb habit drag you down there and ruin it before it even starts. So, teens out there, please stay healthy and in control.
Thanks for the reminder, Dr. T. You mentioned the role of parents on danger of smoking. What is your advice to parents who have smoking teens?
Okay, as parents, it's super important to stay connected to your teens. Open communication is key. Don't just lecture them, actually listen without judgment. Find out what's really going on if they have experimented with cigarettes. Hear their side before giving your 2 cents. This way, they will feel comfortable coming to you with any problems. Parents out there, patience is a virtue. When they are talking, don't cut them off or rush to respond. Offer suggestions, not criticisms. In the long run, positive advice works better than nagging. And please, no screaming, threatening, or emotional blackmail. That will only push them away and maybe make them want to smoke more. Teens, I know peer pressure is real. It's not easy to resist what your friends are doing. So, parents, help your teens find ways to turn down cigarettes offers without pissing anyone off. Remind them true friends won't force it and that they can always bring other non smoking friends for support if they are around smokers. Staying close as a family is the best way to get through the tough times. I hope these tips help create more open and understanding conversations.
I've read that nicotine replacement therapy (NRT) is not available for young people. Besides the strategies you alluded earlier, would you recommend any other resources for teens to get off their addiction?
Yes, NRT or nicotine replacement therapy stuff like the patch and gum is usually just for adults since your body is still developing. While those help satisfy the nicotine cravings, the best thing is to get support from others. Quitting is tough, but there are sometimes things that can help besides willpower alone. Reach out to local groups. They've got people your age going through the same thing who can support you. Or check out the online forums. Some have 24/7 chat rooms. The CDC websites is pretty helpful. Lots of tips for coping with urges and staying smoke free. So remember, you don't have to go through it alone. Talk to your friends and family too. Just take it one day at a time.
Thank you so much for the explanation, Dr. T. You really cleared up all of my questions, and now I totally understand how nicotine works in the brain, especially for us teens since it really affects us more. I had no idea cigarettes were like a gateway drug that could lead us other addictions down the road. That's seriously scary to think about. I really appreciate you laying out strategies to avoid smoking and quit if someone's already addicted. It will be great to pass those tips along to your friends who might be struggling. I hope everyone listening learned a ton of nicotine impacts brain development and how addiction from. Us teens really need to know this stuff so we can make good choices. Well, that wraps it up for today's Brain Plus podcast. We got the inside scoop on nicotine and what it does to teen minds. And that wraps up the second episode of Teen Talks. It was fun experience to be a part of this discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Thiyagar, who have guided us and gave us more in-depth scoop about how nicotine buzzes the brain. Stay tuned for next episode of Teen Talks for more fun conversation on how us teens break free from tobacco and nicotine grip. Make sure to stay connected and add this podcast to your playlist. Until the next episode of Teen Talks, breaking free from tobacco and nicotine grip. Thank you.